This week's Michigan Lottery Excellence in Education winner is Elson Liu with Howell Public Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
We have a letter from your nominator that I'm going to read. Elson is an advocate for LGBTQ+ students. Most recently, Elson brought LGBTQ+ inclusive mental health curriculum to the board for approval. This brought both meaningful conversation and hateful rhetoric. When the curriculum was tabled, he made a new plan that will be used as a stepping stone toward progress. He has shown that he will not give up the fight for inclusive education. I'm very grateful that he's part of our district.
Wow. So that is a story of some work that has been going on for a couple of years, actually, in our district. We have a student group called the Lighthouse Committee, a group of high school students who were concerned about mental health needs of their peers. And they had done some research and learned that our LGBTQ students were at particular risk for mental health challenges. And so they had started a conversation with health teachers, with administration about providing some mental health supports for our students. My role, quite honestly, was really just being a part of that process, right? So I feel like it's not me. I shouldn't really be honored or recognized for any of that. I'm doing my job in shepherding these, curriculum processes through. I think whenever you talk about topics or subjects that can be really challenging, the emphasis that we need to have is just what brings us together as a community. I firmly believe we have a lot more in common than we have that separates us. And so when things don't work out the first time, that's what we keep trying to do, is how do we find ways to bring our community together and find some shared common values.
Yeah. Tell me what a curriculum director does.
So a curriculum director is, in my case, I'm responsible for curriculum, instruction, and assessment. Right? So curriculum is what we teach, right? The content and skills that we want our students to learn. Instruction is how we teach, right? The methods that our teachers use to teach our students. And assessment is how do we know whether our students are learning well, right? So really anything to do with teaching and learning is a responsibility of a curriculum director.
That directly affects the students. Talk about that.
Yeah, so our students, we have a wonderful community and a wonderful student body. And our vision for the district is to empower our students to be successful citizens. So we really have been focused over the past several years on finding student-centered ways to help their education, help them define what their passion in life is, what their mission in life is, and to build curriculum and instructional methods to meet their needs.
You have a degree from MIT. Your background is very non-traditional to be in the position that you're in. Why did you want to be in a position that affects students?
So it's kind of a weird story. When I was in graduate school at MIT, the main communication technology of the day was the telephone. And back then, everyone had the right for the telephone company to come and bring telephone service to your house, right? You could be in the furthest part of the UP and the telephone company would have to spend the money to bring telephone service to your house. In 1996, society decided, well, with this new technology called the internet, we weren't going to do that anymore. We were going to bring the internet to schools, and we were going to ask our teachers and students to figure out how society could adapt to changing technology. And that's when I decided to pursue a career in education, because it's going to be incredibly challenging work, right? We see the impact of technology on society, and it's really up to our teachers and our students to figure out how it all works.
So you don't have direct access every day to the kids, probably, right?
When I do observations, I'll go into classrooms and I'll work with teachers and students, but I don't have my own classroom of students, if that's what you mean.
Yeah. So because you don't have your own classroom with students, tell me, though, why you do what you do to impact the students. Why does that matter to you personally?
So I'll tell you a story, right? Our senior class every year will do something called Senior Survivor, right? It's a fundraiser for a charity that they organize, they choose the recipient, they go through these challenges to raise money. And in a typical year, Howell is not what I would call a wealthy community. In a typical year, they'll raise, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for this charity. Last year during the pandemic, our seniors raised $200,000 for building an inclusive playground in a park so that students with disabilities would be able to have the same kind of play opportunities that all children have, right? And that's the spirit of our students in our community that just get me up every morning and want to come to work.
Wow. That's great. Well, thank you for what you do. Yeah. You're making a difference. And so what's going to happen with this? What's going to happen with this issue and the LGBTQ+? Like what's next?
So what's next is we really want to find ways to bring our community together and find common ground. I think the way that we address these kinds of challenges and these kinds of discussions is really to focus first on what we have in common, what we share. The example of that Senior Survivor Project is a great example of how we care about all of our students and we support all of our students. So starting there and finding ways that we can really help build success for all of our students.
Well, thank you for what you do. You're making a difference.
Thank you.
Elson receives a $1,500 check from the Michigan Lottery, and Howell Public Schools receives a $500 grant. Excellence in Education Award sponsored by the Michigan Lottery, providing more than $24.5 billion to public education since 1972.